Hi, this is Alan Perkins from Horns Digest. Through the Scout Network, don't forget to check out Horns Digest, where Chip Brown has 25 years of experience covering UT athletics, and follow me on Twitter, please, as well, at Alan Perkins HD. You can also check out my YouTube channel. If you just type in Alan Perkins HD in the YouTube search bar, my channel should be the first to come up, and don't forget to like, subscribe, and follow. So today on the Perkins Podcast, I'm going to be discussing the 2008 Texas, number 1 ranked Texas versus number 7 ranked Texas Tech game that happened in Lubbock. And I'm specifically going to be talking about Texas scoring too quickly on their last go-ahead drive, leaving Texas Tech too much time to answer. Texas ended up scoring and took the lead by 1 point, but ultimately left Texas Tech with too much time. So I'm going to be analyzing, should Texas have wasted more time even though they were behind when they were driving for the lead? So a couple things to keep in mind for this game. Number one, in the summer of that year of 2008, the College Football Rules Committee had decided to go to a 40-second play clock instead of a 25-second play clock that they had used previously. However, the 25-second play clock was still in effect following a team timeout, injury timeout, change of possession, a score, a media timeout, etc. So, the situation in this game was that Texas trailed Tech in 2008. Texas trailed Tech 19-0 at one point, and Texas also trailed 29-13 midway through the third quarter, but Texas eventually mounted a comeback. So what I'm going to look at is Texas's last drive, and I'm not going to worry about the first part of the drive because when Texas has the ball, they're down 32-26. They're down by 6 with 5 minutes and 40 seconds left in the game. I'm not going to worry about what Texas does at this point because trying to waste time when you're behind and you're still 80 yards from the end zone when you have to get a touchdown is a silly idea. So there's no point in discussing that. And I'm also not going to look at the types of plays that happened on this drive. I'm just going to talk about the time aspect of it because that's the focus of the discussion. So Texas has the ball at their own, I believe it started their own 20-yard line, right around there. And there was 5 minutes and 40 seconds left in the game, and Texas was down by 6, 32-26. So Texas drove the ball, marched the ball down the field, and where I'm going to start looking at is when Texas has the ball, 1st and 10 at the Texas Tech 30, 4 minutes left in the game. Texas is down by 6, 1st and 10 at the Tech 30, 4 minutes left. So on first down, Texas snaps the ball with 8 seconds left. On 2nd down and 5 from the Tech 25, Texas snapped the ball with 18 seconds left on the play clock. Then there was an injury timeout, and there was, now at this point after the injury timeout, there's 3 minutes left in the game. Texas is down 6, and it's 1st and 10 from the Texas Tech 19. Texas has the ball at the Tech 19, 1st and 10. The clock is running because the previous play was a running play, and the clock only stopped because of an injury. So then the clock started running again once the officials spotted the ball and started play again. On this play, Texas snapped the ball with 29 seconds left on the play clock. Then Texas gets 8 yards. They get down to the Texas Tech 12. So at this point, there's 2 minutes and 34 seconds left. Texas is down by 6. They have the ball with 2 minutes and 34 seconds left. 2nd and 2 on the Texas Tech 12. Texas snaps the ball with 17 seconds left. Now it's 1st and goal. They've gotten a first down. Texas has 1st and goal from the 6. There's 2 minutes and 19 seconds left. Texas snaps the ball with 7 seconds on the play clock. There's another injury timeout. After another chance to talk it over and figure out what they want to run, Texas comes back up on the field. Now it's 2nd and goal from the Texas Tech 4. The clock is running again because, again, there was an injury timeout, but the previous play was a run, so the clock is running. So Texas, the receivers and the linemen and the running back and quarterback, everybody gets lined up. There's 1 minute and 38 seconds on the clock when everyone is settling into their stance. And Texas snaps the ball with 21 seconds left on the play clock on 2nd and goal from the 4. They snap the ball with 21 seconds left on the play clock, and they score on that play. So at this point, Texas has tied the game 32-32. There's 1 minute 29 left on the game clock, and Texas kicks the extra point eventually to take the lead. So I went back and I calculated all the time that Texas could have taken off of the clock if they would have run the play clock down to 1 second every single time, starting from when Texas got to the 30. So I looked at the 6 plays from when Texas got to the Texas Tech 30-yard line, the 6 plays that it took for them to score, I added all of those seconds up that they left on the play clock that they could have wasted, and that added up to 1 minute and 40 seconds that they could have used if they ran the play clock down to 1 second every time. Now, there's a couple things. Number one, when they scored, there's only 1:29 left, so obviously if they wasted 1:40, that wouldn't have left them with enough time. And then the other thing is, to be reasonable, I'm going to say that Texas could have snapped the ball with 5 seconds left on the play clock on each of those 6 plays, just because clearly you can't risk a delay of game and taking it down to 1. That's cutting it too close. So to be reasonable, I'm going to say Texas could have snapped the ball with 5 seconds left on the play clock on all of those 6 plays. So if you multiply those 6 plays that Texas ran from the 30-yard line until they scored, if you multiply those 6 plays times 5 seconds, that's 30 seconds that Texas would have left on the play clock on purpose so that they didn't risk a delay of game. So if I take those 30 seconds that they would have left on the play clock and I subtract that from the 1:40 seconds that they could have shaved off if they were cutting it really close, then that leaves Texas with 1 minute and 10 seconds that they could have reasonably wasted from the play clock if they would have snapped it with 5 seconds on every play on the play clock. So that leaves Tech, if I subtract 1 minute and 10 seconds from 129, and 129 is what happened in reality, if I subtract the 1 minute and 10 seconds that they could have reasonably wasted, that brings it down to 19 seconds that Texas Tech would have had the ball to score, which they ultimately did score to win the game on a last-second pass to Crabtree. But instead, if Texas would have wasted time on their drive, they could have brought it down to 19 seconds or somewhere in that zone. So the other thing to consider is that Texas Tech had a timeout while all of this was going on, and Texas had 2 timeouts while all of this was going on. So Texas Tech clearly could have, Mike Leach could have clearly called a timeout at some point during this drive to try to save time. And if I'm going to be generous, Texas Tech could have saved 30 to 40 seconds on a 40-second play clock. So let's add 30 seconds to 19 or 40 seconds to 19. That leaves Tech with 49 to 59 seconds, somewhere in there, that they could have kept on the clock as a maximum if everything else played out like it did. However, the question is, would Mike Leach have called a timeout? Because when Texas scored, there was only 1 minute and 29 seconds left in the game. So clearly he hadn't done it to that point. And Texas Tech did have a 6-point lead, so maybe he thought it was possible that his defense could make a stop. And it is kind of strange for a coach to call a timeout when they are ahead by 6 with just a minute or 2 left, and your team, Texas Tech, has a chance to make the stop. So it's really unlikely to me that he calls a timeout unless it gets down to about 45 or 30 seconds and Texas maybe gets to the 1 or 2 hypothetically. But in that case, it's a moot point anyways, because then the clock has gone down to 45 or 30 seconds, which is the whole point of this discussion. So either way, I think that if Texas would have wasted time more on that drive, that they would have ended up with a better result. And Leach obviously hadn't called a timeout down to 129, so he was already in his head that why would you call a timeout when you have the lead? So Texas Tech ended up, they were down by 1. Texas, like I said, scored the touchdown, kicked the extra point. Texas led 33-32. Texas Tech got the ball, drove the field, threw a deep ball to Crabtree. He broke a tackle, ran into the end zone, crossed the goal line at 2 seconds, and they ran it down to 1 second. So obviously time was a major factor in this game. So anyway, Texas, on that drive when they went ahead, they went on an 11-play, 80-yard drive, and they used just over 4 minutes on the drive to take the lead 33-32. Texas led after the drive that I just discussed. So that left Graham Harrell and Michael Crabtree with 1 minute and 29 left and 1 timeout just to score a field goal. At the same time, Texas Tech's kicking situation was very shaky that year, so much that Mike Leach had taken a student and put him on the team after that student had won a kicking field goal contest at halftime of a UMass Texas Tech game. So obviously he was pretty desperate with kicking situations, so it wasn't like a field goal was automatic for Tech that year because their kickers were not having the greatest of years. So people could say, well, Alan, you're just nitpicking. That's being too critical because when Texas is down by 6 points, they should just go and score and just play the game naturally and not worry about the clock at all, because that's another thing that Colt McCoy would have to worry about, and the possibility of making the offense nervous or thinking about too many things is an understandable thing to say. However, Colt McCoy is a junior this year, and anybody who followed his college career obviously knows he's a cool customer and just a great quarterback in all sorts of ways, but most especially in understanding how the game goes and all the intricacies of the game. So I would think as a junior, considering all that he accomplished in his career, that he probably wouldn't have been able to handle it. But I understand the thought process of that. However, I do have to say that there's a couple things to consider. And there's one other thing that I didn't say also in defense of the other side of the argument that I'm not taking. Someone that would be arguing against me might also say that if you're running the clock down and then you don't score, you're probably not ever going to see the ball again. So that is something to consider. But here's the thing that you have to remember. Number one, this is the 9th game of the season for both teams. And at this point of their careers, Mike Leach and Mac Brown have played many games against each other. Everyone involved in this game knows that it's usually a high-scoring affair. So, and I want you to consider these stats for the whole season for both teams. In 2008, Texas averaged 42.4 points per game, which ranked 5th in the FBS. Texas's defense only allowed 19 points per game, but they had given up 35 points to OU and 31 points to Missouri in recent weeks. On the other hand, Texas Tech offense averaged 43.8 points per game, and they were ranked 3rd in the FBS, yet their defense, Texas Tech's defense, ranked 75th in the country in points per game giving up 27.8 points per game. And on the year, Texas Tech's offense, Graham Harrell had completed 70% of his passes that year, over 70%, and he threw for 5,000 yards. And Michael Crabtree was over 1,000 yards receiving and had 19 touchdowns at the end of the year. And Michael Crabtree won the Biletnikoff Award for the best receiver in the country in 2007 and in 2008. Lastly, Texas Tech's 2 best running backs combined for 1,400 yards rushing on the season. So in a game when Texas is behind 32-26, yes, they're behind, but their defense has given up 32 points to this point. They've given up 517 yards of offense to this point. And Texas' defense has surrendered 400 yards of passing in this game just to this point. Which unit are you going to trust? If I think it's pretty obvious that Texas should have trusted their 5th-ranked offense versus the 75th-ranked defense. Even if you're cutting it close with the clock and running it down and it's too risky, keep in mind also Texas had 2 timeouts during the whole duration of this drive. So if they started getting it down to 20, 30, 40 seconds and it's getting kind of dicey, then they could have always called a timeout to stop the clock from running down too far and not taking too much of a chance. So that's something else to consider. And lastly, leaving Texas Tech with their 3rd-ranked offense in the FBS scoring-wise with 1 minute and 29 seconds and a timeout to get in field goal range because Texas Tech was only down 1 after Texas scored the go-ahead touchdown. In the college game, when the clock stops after a first down, that's a lot of time, especially for a very good offense. So people could say, well, it's being overly critical or Monday morning quarterback kind of approach, but I will bring my dad on here in a second in part 2, and he will be able to attest that during this game, while we were watching it together, he can attest that I was saying all of this while Texas was driving, and he was arguing with me while we were watching the game, no, Texas just needs a score. They just need to worry about scoring, all that other stuff. It doesn't matter because if they don't score, it's not going to matter. But after the game, he conceded to me for the first time ever, before or since, when we got in an argument about something, that I was actually correct about it after the conclusion of the game. So, as I said before, I'm going to bring my dad on for part 2 of this argument and this debate, and so look for that. I'll be putting that up shortly, and I really appreciate all listening and supporting the Perkins Podcast. And again, check out Horns Digest and my Twitter at Alan Perkins HD and my YouTube channel. If you just search Alan Perkins HD in the YouTube search bar, my channel should be the first to come up. And I appreciate y'all listening. I hope y'all have a great day. I hope you had a great weekend. We're starting to get into December here pretty soon. And y'all have a fantastic evening. Thanks so much. Have a great day. Bye.